didn't vote
Hey, we haven't seen you in a while.
Tuesday night when they were here.
How are you, sir? Good.
Anyway, that's all right.
2 meetings
It'll
ago,
happen fast.
and the last meeting, I had that. I had a flu. I've never been that sick.
Use the exact same.
Oh yeah.
Use the exact same. Oh yeah, they use for.
Peter,
It was
you
the
grab a
worst
seat,
sickness
bring it in and
I've
sit
ever
here.
had.
Yeah.
Because there's only one, I'm the only one at this desk.
I had an appendectomy about 4 years ago, and I almost went in the hospital at the same time. Oh yeah. Who's here?
No, you stay right where you're at.
I'm gonna work with that one, but I could have sworn I walked down the bottle of water.
Yeah, some people are gonna say yes, some people are gonna say no, but some people are gonna say yes or no to.
Go by that clock. Would you join me in pledging allegiance to the flag? Thank you. I thought while we're getting the electronics working and things, we'll go do the minutes and review the agenda. I think we got almost everybody. The only one we don't have is Chairman of the Finance Committee, John Carter, right?
And Michael.
Michael was here. I think he's gonna be, he'll be here. Okay. What's your pleasure on the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of March 23rd.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay. Our PMA folks have brought some additions or clarifications to my attention. So I thought that if we vote to accept the minutes, we do it pending the corrections that PMA Chris has, and he can hand those right over to Kelly. Would that be acceptable? And then we'll readdress them again. I mean, we want to see them when they printed. So as soon as that's possible, but I think we can vote them now, pending those corrections.
Do you want to review the corrections? Can you?
They're pretty detailed, quite a bit. Do you want to go?
We can't vote. We
Take
probably.
2 minutes while you're setting up then.
All right, let's, Chris, can you? Grab that mic there, Chris, yep.
Okay, in the meeting minutes under section 10, the paragraph that begins with Richard Ward, first sentence where it says letter in the packet was in reference to that. That should be replaced by Carver PDP submittal to MSBA. Under a couple sentences down, where it says Liz had developed a very detailed response, that should continue to say to the educational plan questions. And then right after that, in front of initial space summary, it should say MSBA questions, question topics included, and then the follow-on items are the actual topics that were included. The last sentence in that paragraph, where it says information is limited to one renovation option, comma, one new two-story option, comma, and one new three-story option.
Okay. So you have detailing those three options?
Yes.
That's what you're, yep. Okay.
And then the last one, MSBA has also asked for a copy of the cost analysis of the three options. Then on the next page, under section 12, in the second paragraph where it says there's inefficiency built into that, it should say there's inefficiency built into stacking of floors. And then the bottom of that page, beginning with Mike Milanowski, says he is concerned with this option C2. It's actually E1/E2, not C2. And then below where it says Matt replied yes, C1, it's actually E1. And then under section 13, beginning with the line that says Sarah Stearns asked about option C2, we should insert there the statement that says, which impacts the existing school structure of the Washburn building. And that's all I had.
Okay. It is important that we clarify any of these things because these notes go right, let's go right to MSBA. So, okay, thank you. Thank you, Chris. And Kelly, no criticism of yours, you're doing a great job. Just, we already made a motion for them, the minutes. Would you just amend that motion as amended would work.
Sure, I'll move
All
that
right.
we approve the minutes of March 23rd as amended.
Okay. Okay. Any other additions or omissions or corrections? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So we have, okay, let's see, we gotta count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, nope. 6, 7, 8. 8, 0, 1. Right? All right, 8, 0, 2. Raise your hand again if you're voting for. 4, 5, 6, 7, okay. 7, 0, 2. All set, Kelly? Okay.
Still passes.
Okay, thank you for your patience, folks. All right, the agenda review, it's pretty straightforward. General update from project managers, well investigations, that's part of that topic. And number 5, schedule and cost review, project managers, progress update and key dates, total project cost updates. 6, conceptual design presentation by HMFH, identification of preferred schematic option. 7, public comment period on proposed options. And then 8, would be the school building committee discussion and vote. School building committee vote for selection of preferred schematic option. School building committee vote to approve preferred schematic report, PSR, submittal, whatever that means. Okay. Any additions or omissions that you would like to present for the agenda? The new business we'll be discussing next meeting, and a couple of simple things we might like to add to the agenda. Okay? All right, onward. Project manager, section 4, general update. Chad, you're on.
All right, thank you, Dick. I'm actually gonna stand up so I can point to what I'm talking about. Flat tire should be good. All right, so since our last meeting, we had an opportunity to meet with the DEP and go over some of the proposed well locations. Overall, the meeting was very productive. The feedback that we received from them was very positive. The view that you have up on the screen right here is the DEP's preferred well location option. You can see that, so this would be the location of the well. This does require an easement from the abutter. Michael, I don't know if you have any updates on that easement, but
Yes, the butter has that information. He's been looking at the site, and we're just going to work out hopefully the final details. We have included that as an article in the town meeting warrant to allow us to purchase an easement or receive as a gift an easement for that piece.
great, thank you. So right now, as I said, this is the preferred option for the DEP. The next steps with the well are the engineering firm, JC Engineering, is working on a proposal right now to drill some observation wells so we can get a water quality test done on that location, pending positive news on the easement. Once we have the water quality reports and provided everything checks out, then we would go ahead and move forward with a pump test to determine that the ground in that area can sustain the school's draw. No indications that this would be an issue. The DEP actually thinks that we could probably get close to 10,000 gallons per day out of this well. They asked us to do the pump test at that. The lead certificate for the school, the water use requirements require us to be down in the 30, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was 3,300 gallons per day, right around that?
3,100 gallons.
Okay. So obviously if we can do a pump test and demonstrate 10,000, 3,100 is not going to be an issue at all. So all good news on that front with the well. And Walter, you can go to the next slide. So this is sort of our plan B, so to speak. This keeps the zone 1 buffer for the well entirely within the school's property limits, as you can see. The downside to this particular scenario is in order to phase the project, we would need to get this well installed up and running before we could do the excavation and foundations for the new building. Because as you can see, the new building will sit on or in the buffer zones of the 2 existing wells. With that well up and running, serving the existing buildings, you can see the buffer zone is actually in the corner of the Washburn building. So that was a little bit of a concern for the DEP. It's not game over, but that's the reason why they asked us to shift the well 50 feet southeast, which kicks off the need for the easement. If the easement can't happen, then that doesn't mean that this is an impossible scenario. We just have to take that into consideration during demolition of the building.
Chad, is it fair to say the preference is to do the one with the easement, but they would give us a temporary approval while the construction happens to impact the corner of that building?
Correct, yep. So I would say this is sort of plan A, preferred option, so to speak, and then this would be our plan B. So we have 2 very viable options on the table. Ultimately, plan A is also in the school's best interest, as it gives you a little more space for your fields and parking or expansion in the future, whatever you might need. So that's what we are pushing for right now, and we'll keep everyone posted when we get the proposal from JC to drill those observation wells.
Chad, is there any other adjustments you had to make to move that zone within the boundaries? Just you said the parking and what else?
So this is actually as presented by HMFH. So this one right here, they've always been designing assuming that well was going to be there. So there's no negative impacts from any of the designs that we've seen to date. It restricts you a little bit, I mean, obviously your field here, you have very little, and you're closer to the existing septic system. So if we can move that more southeast, then we get farther away from that septic system, which is obviously ideal. Any questions on the wells? Yep, Sarah?
What is the distance, I can't quite read it, in
It's-
Plan B from the edge of the septic field? From the,
I believe it is 19 feet in Plan B, and then you pick up roughly 50 feet on the preferred option. So 70 feet from the septic. All right, any other well questions before we move on? I think next up is cost. All right, so those of you who were here last time may recall we had some discussion about cost and escalation, budget numbers. We had touched upon this back in December of last year at one of our early meetings. Wanted to just do a little bit of a follow-up, and we crunched some numbers, and we took the old option B3 from 2011 and basically translated it into today's dollars. So we've inserted that as sort of a fourth what-if scenario, where the three options that we're looking at right now, there's the add rental, the 2-story, the 3-story. We sort of added a fourth option, which is your B3, if we were to build it today. So some of the numbers that are driving the cost data that you'll see on the subsequent slide are up here. I'm not going to go through this stuff in detail. It gets very technical. But basically, if you look here, this is looking at construction unemployment, which is a major factor to construction cost escalation. Back when they were going through the estimate and design process in 2011 is the very, very bottom of construction unemployment. So you had contractors who are hungry to just put their guys to work. As you can see right now, we're back on the uptick, and this is one of the many components that drives construction escalation. Next slide. So this here is very similar, just a different way to present the data, and looks at more of a regional breakdown instead of a national focus. So you can see that this is labor utilization. Boston here is an 80 to 89% labor utilization nowadays, which is a little bit higher than the target to keep prices stable. I believe it's 85% will keep your prices flat. But you can see again, we're also on the upswing since 2010, 2011 period. And then this is my final data slide. So this is actually from a recent Gilbane economics report. Again, looking at national data, so the Boston market's going to be a little bit more finicky. But you can see here, this is inflation escalation, basically all those factors that we had touched on combined into one graph. And again, you can see that your low point is right at the time that the project was going through the feasibility schematic process last time. So when the estimates were created, they were using data that was seeing this trend here, because they didn't see this upswing here. It hadn't started yet. Nobody knew when or if it was going to start. So this is actually the handout that we passed around. And there's a lot of data on here. We'll sum it up in a couple graphs after this, but for the number crunchers here, I want everyone to see sort of the behind the scenes that's feeding those graphs. The first row here is option B3 in 2011 dollars. So unfortunately it's cut off a little bit in the bottom, but we're at 41 million and change. And I did misspeak last meeting. I said 45 million. It wasn't 45, it was 41. This is the architect's reconciled cost estimate. So this was actually included in the schematic submission to the MSBA. That's where we got that information from. The next column over, the one sort of shaded in pink there, is escalated numbers. So what we did is we took average escalation of just over 6% over the past 4 years and ran it across the numbers from the 2011 estimates. And then the next three columns you'll see are our scenarios that we're looking at today, the concepts. We have option A, the add rental, option C1, and option E2, the 2- and 3-story options. Hang on, Walt, 1 second. So 2 of the items that we flagged in this were, one of them was a site work line here. So and you can see their escalated site work number, even with escalation, is at 2.9 million. Right now in the numbers, we're carrying 3.6 to 3.7 million. One of the dangerous things about carrying a low site work number is if you go over it, it's ineligible to the MSBA. So that right there is sort of a red flag for us. Also, down on the bottom line, you see your design and pricing contingency. At that time, they were carrying 3%, $3 million, and we're carrying 4.8 million. So we're being a little more conservative in our numbers. The goal is to always bring the numbers down. We don't want to be in a position where we have to bring the numbers up at any point in time.
And if I could, Chad, just on the three 2015 concepts, to hit that point, the committee's directed that we want to have an all-in total inclusive number, that, this will include all components of the project, and that's what you've included in here?
Yes. So this slide here is just construction costs. But the next slide, obviously, you couldn't fit everything on one page. So the next slide, we'll get into soft costs and contingencies and stuff like that.
But again, all in.
All in, yep. And we've also made, sort of focused on the potential district share. So just because a project might be more expensive than another one doesn't mean it's going to be more expensive to the district. You have